All right, what's going on, everyone? This is Sam or Wakeman or Wake or Wakeman VGC, whatever the hell you want to call me. Today we are here for a little team breakdown for the UDL Season 4. This is their first season in Gen 9, and I'm entering with the Great Lakes Aces logo again. So this is a VGC style league, but they only allow some mons, so they cut out tier one and part of tier two from like quote unquote like a standard tier list, and so power level's a little lower. It's more of a low tier format. They couldn't cut out quite as much as I think they usually would have because the dex is so small. Um, but it was two divisions of 12. They had it in four tiers, very similar, the same budgeting as GLDL here. Six like required slots, and then five free point slots for 300 points total. There's snake draft as usual. I was sixth pick out of 12. Um, I mean, sixth is pretty bad. I think I would prefer sixth over seventh and eighth, but other than that, like six, seven, eight are probably the five, six, seven, eight are the worst, are the four worst. But I think they just go in numerical order for which I would prefer. That being said, I'm just gonna get right into breaking down each pick here, and we'll just kind of talk about it as I normally do. So first up is Sableye. So this was a tier one. I went this as my first pick because it's super flexible. It really it doesn't limit my options really for later in the draft, and so because its move pool is so insane, because Quash is crazy, because the combination of fake out and feint and encore, will-o-wisp, trick, all of this stuff, like weather, it gives me weather options as well. Super good. I mean, the base stats are terrible, but the typing is amazing. And so, yeah, I mean, I just felt really good about this in a low tier format. I think there's going to be very limited ways to like counterplay this thing. So I'm really excited to use it. And as you can see, I mean, its move pool is just absurd. Like the amount of good usable moves it gets, like knockoff and nightshade for stabs, and then fake out and feint, and then plus screens. I mean, it's crazy. It's so much stuff. So then, at this point, I knew I wanted to get Charizard. I wanted to get Sableye Charizard. I thought the combination looked really good, but I didn't think I had to take Charizard quite yet. And so I went for Arboliva in round two. This was in tier two, so I felt like it was really good value. And because I was confident that Charizard would make it to me, I didn't I didn't feel like I had to grab it right away. So I went for this, which I felt like was a little more pickable by multiple teams. This mine's really good. The bulk is pretty good. Physical bulk is fine, and the special bulk is really good. Speed tier is good for Trick Room, and special attack stat is awesome. So, um, Seed Sower is cool because it can set grassy terrain for passive recovery and to make you either boost your grass moves or be able to click Terrain Pulse, which is absurdly strong. Um, and then just on top of that, like being able to use Harvest, because I knew that I was going for like a kind of a light sun mode. I almost went Lilligant, but I decided that I didn't want to put that many eggs in the sun basket. Excuse me. So yeah, so this is what I went with. It's a pretty, I mean, you can do really cool like defensive Terra late game stuff with Leech Seed and Strength Sap and whatever else you want to do, but like just like three attacks protect sets on this are really strong, I think, and it's one of the few things that still gets Weather Ball, which is awesome. Um, so yeah, overall, I mean, this mon's really good. Just has a lot of good coverage. I didn't put normal moves on here, but it gets some good normal moves as well. I think it gets Hyper Voice. Um, but yeah, so then my next pick. So then I was thinking, okay, I'll grab Charizard now. But then I was like, I started to look at tier one, and I was like, okay, I think I want to get another tier one, and so I went with Tauros Aqua. Um, so this was a tier one. So this was 100. This cost me 100 points out of my free point budgeting. Um, but yeah, this mon is incredible. Man. I am yawning so much today, and I not really not really sure why. But yeah, Intimidate is the main ability. Anger Point and Cut You or whatever. Um, it's insane value. It's one of the best things. I thought it was one of the best things in Tier 1. I think Sableye and Tauros, between those two, I got two of the top, 5 to 10 Tier 1s, like that area. Super good. Um, and because I knew I wanted to gun for Charizard, I knew that this was a great complement to that. Really messes up rock types. Um, you know, so like just in general, I just felt really good about that. Intimidate's great for Charizard as well because I think Charizard is a mon that can really do really well, but needs a lot of support to do it. And so between setting Sun with Sableye, and then being able to intimidate and kill rock types with Tauros, I felt really good about this pick. As you can see, it gets really good coverage. Raging Bull is a great water type move that breaks screens, as well as just close combat. Wave Crash, Aqua Jet for good stab options. And then stuff like, Drill Run, EQ, all this stuff. Rock Slide is really handy, I think. Doesn't really get much in the way of like support moves or status moves, but this is one that I don't really feel needs it. But yeah, I think this mon is really good, and I'm excited to use it. So then, these first three picks were all leading up to my fourth pick, which was Charizard. Yeah, this is another one. I'm just like, I've never drafted it because it's always felt hard to justify and hard to support um, in like a normal tiered format with like tier ones available. But because of the lower power level here, I thought that this mon looked really good. So I have that Prankster Sunny Day option, and like very few. Jeez, man. I apologize, guys. Very few things actually switch in on this thing that well under the sun. Like clicking Heat Wave with Solar Power Boost is absurd damage. I think like good spread damage, and like especially in a non-max format, in any format now that Dynamax is gone, but especially low tier formats, I just think it's really hard to get around that kind of stuff when you don't have tier 1 bulky options to pivot around it. And it completes my Firewater Grass core, which between Tauros, Arboliva, and Charizard, like I would take that in a normal league. Like I think that's a good Firewater Grass core in a not low tier league. So to get that all in low tier, I feel really good about. And I mean, this is kind of your standard glass cannon type of mon, very frail, but hits like a truck. And so, in terms of status, like I mean, you can run physical sets with Dragon Dance. It gets Will-O-Wisp. I put Belly Drum on here because I think it's funny. I don't think this mon can really like set it up that easily, and then it gets the coverage it needs. You know, Solar Beam allows it to hit like water types and rock types and ground types. So that's really nice. I think Terra Ground is a really good set in here. You could run Terra Blast to hit electric types. But yeah, in general, like I just think this mon is really strong for the format. But yeah, so now I'm developing my fast mode. But I wanted to grab one last thing that would really kind of solidify the fast mode, and I thought that was Persian. I was gunning for Raichu because of the lightning rod support for Charizard and Tauros, but it got picked a couple a couple picks before me. So I went with Persian. I had Persian in GLDL, so it's a little bit of a comfort pick for me. But this archetype of mon, I just like to have this kind of thing on almost every team. Your Sneasels, Salazzle, Persian, Raichu, that kind of thing. Like fast, disruptive, fake out. I just really like to have those kind of things, and so it's the third fastest available fake out behind Weavile, which is the fastest, and Salazzle. I'm tied with Sneasel for number 3 at 115. So that means against all but 2 teams, I'm going to have basically an uncontested fake out, which is really nice. And then you combine that with like pretty like meaningful chip from like Technician boosted Icy Winds and Snarls, plus Stab Technician fake out is really strong. And then I mean you have stuff like Chilling Water and Swift, and you have and Foul Play and stuff like that. And then your support move pool is also like this provides me like I already have Taunt and Thunderwave and Trick and all that, but like this gives me a Fake Tears user which I didn't have yet, and it gives me a Charm user which I also didn't have yet. So I thought that was really handy, and I think this provides a lot of support to my team. And having that fast Icy Wind I think is going to be um, a really good like support for Charizard and Tauros. So then next up, I saw Hypno in Tier 4, and I really liked this because it was a tier lower than stuff like Grumpig, which I thought was weird because I think Hypno's way better than Grumpig. Um, and so I was like, well, because I looked at Grumpig in Tier 3, and I was like, well, Hypno's Tier 4. I can't really justify taking that, I don't think. So I went with Hypno. Inner Focus Trick Room with really good special bulk, I think is just solid. And I mean, it's not strong, even though it does get some good moves: Psychic, D-Gleam, Foul Play, Nightshade, stuff like that. Um, I wanted a Trick Room setter because I had Arboliva, and I think Trick Room Arboliva is really strong. I mean, undeniably so. But and then this gives me another screens user, although it's not as good as Sableye, so it probably won't run that very often. Imprison Trick Room as well with Inner Focus is pretty nice. Um, and then um, pretty normal support move pool here. Role play is kind of cool. Will I use it? Maybe not, but there's an option there. But yeah, I mean, I have less to say about this one. I just saw this one. It was kind of a high value pick, and I wanted to take it before it got taken from me. So then next up, I was deciding, do I want to take another tier 2? Because that would have meant I had to take 2 more tier 4s, and I eventually decided yes. I was looking at. I wanted to get a steel type, and the steel types were really starting to, get. The pickings were slim, and so I decided to go with Magnezone. Um, Magnezone is just, I think, really strong in this format. Like, the ability to, um, like you're just stronger than most things. A couple good ground types are gone, which is really handy. It's a really great answer to things that hit Charizard, as well as just being, like I said, being great value. It's not the most versatile thing. Like you've got a couple sets that are really good. Iron Defense Body Press is really good, but then, you know, um, it's got a fine enough Scarf speed too if you want to do Scarf Electro Web, Volt Switch shenanigans. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just a really good mon, and this is kind of like my theme for the draft was like I just noticed there was so much value I could take that this was just one of those things I was like, this is really high value. I'm just gonna grab this before it gets taken. So then next up, so now I'm starting to have to dip into lower tiers, and so I am thinking about types I don't have and moves like support moves and roles that I don't have. And wide guard was and well, I didn't have a rock type and I didn't have wide guard, and so I felt like what is the obvious thing you bring to beat Charizard is Rock Slide because pretty much any Rock Slide is going to be OHKOing Charizard, and so wide guard. I think it's just nice to have the option because outside of wide guard, like rock moves, like if wide guard is present and rock slide's not an option, wide guard or Charizard is a lot safer, I think, because like your other options are like rock blast and stone edge, pretty much, and like the two mons that get power gem. So like your options are pretty slim outside of rock slide, so I think that's really good. But then just in general, like this gave me another strong physical attacker, which was really handy. Speed tier is whatever. But yeah, I mean between like rock slide, rock blast, it gets some good moves. It gets a couple good stab options. Gravity is cool. Wide guard is great. Yeah, I mean that's about all I have to say about this one. So then next, I was kind of still looking in the tier 3 area, and I went with Sandaconda. I knew I wanted a ground type. I wanted a way to hit electric types because I had Tauros and Charizard were two of my main damage dealers. Um, So yeah, and then I mean, this incidentally gave me another good rock answer as well. Which again, my team wasn't exactly super weak to rock, but like a Charizard team, you can never really have too many things that hit rock. Um, and this was kind of just the best ground type that was available. There was like Doug Trio and Mudbray in Tier 4 that I kind of looked at, but I just kind of couldn't argue with the more versatility that Sandaconda has over those two. So I just decided to go with this. Again, it's not like a super versatile mon. You're going to be running like bulky sets with a couple with like some coverage, and that's about it. But I think that works. Like I think this is just a mon that uses that really well. And again, this is low tier, so like you can't expect your team to perform like it would in a normal format. Um, so then my last two picks I had to dip into tier 4. And this one I was actually really excited to see this. So this is Seviper. It has Shed Skin and Infiltrator, which I think is actually a really good ability. Um, but the move pool on this thing, I mean, the stat line is not great. Poison's not a terrible defensive typing, which is nice. But the bulk is bad. 100 in both offenses is nice. Like, it allows you to run special or physical kind of interchangeably. But, I mean, look at this move pool. Coil, Glare, Haze, Taunt, Switcheroo, Gastro Acid, and then all of that coverage. Like, it gets everything on top of, like, Feint, Snarl, stuff like a couple good support attacks as well. I just I just think this is awesome. Like again, the coverage, it can break screens with Brick Break. I don't think I put Brick Break on here, but Brick Break and Psychic Fangs, um, just phenomenal coverage. And base 100 attack, like if you put a life orb on this thing, like you're gonna be hitting some calcs. So I'm excited to use this thing. I think it'll be a really cool mount for me to use. And then final pick is Altaria. So I'm at the point, so we're in our last round, and I'm like, okay, I don't have a dragon type. I kind of realized a couple rounds earlier that I was not gonna be able to grab a fairy type because I got Florges sniped from me, and then I kind of just knew that I mean my only fairy type options were like NFEs or Wigglytuff, which I mean Wigglytuff is fine, but it just kind of didn't do much on my team. So then I was like, okay, can I get a dragon type? And I was looking at Fracture because Dragonair was taken, which I think is one of the better NFE dragons. But then Fracture was there, and I was like, well, it's pretty strong, reasonable Eviolite bulk, although not great. But then I was like, oh, Altaria's there, and I don't have Tailwind. So then this was kind of an easy one for me. And at this point, I didn't feel that bad about taking another rock weakness because, like, I have Sandaconda and Tauros and Magnezone to deal with that. So, like, I really didn't feel. And Arboliva doesn't switch in, but it does hit them. So, like, I really didn't feel that bad about taking another rock weakness here because my only two rock weaknesses are Charizard and Altaria. I only have two. So, this was still, like, overall a net, rock advantage. So, I was cool with this. But it's just a super annoying support piece. Like, you can invest a lot in bulk and make it live a surprising amount of hits. 75, 90, 105 is, like, pretty reasonable. And then just, 80 speed helps me with some kind of speed tier clumping I had going on. Fire Spin, I forgot to put Perish Song on here, but Perish Song is a real option on this thing. Gives me another Haze option. Tailwind was the big one, though. When I saw this thing, and I was like, oh, I don't have Tailwind. This was kind of an easy one for me. Do I think it's not going to be like a bring Tailwind every week kind of thing, but, if Persian Icy Wind or Sableye Quash doesn't look great, then I think Tailwind is gonna be a good option. But yeah, I mean, again, it's a low tier format. Power level's a lot lower. I think this mod is going to be able to do a lot of work. So that being said, this is my overall thoughts. I felt like almost all of my picks were insanely high value. I felt really good about the value I got out of this tier list. Um, I have tons of like good synergy between like Sun for Charizard and Arboliva, Wide Guard to protect Charizard, just stuff like that. Are any of the combos quite as broken as like a normal format? No, not really. But yeah, I think that I think I got tons of value. I think the main weakness here is like I think my speed tiers are a little awkward. Normally I would look to, you know, maybe get something around the 115 or above mark. So like Persian is there. Um, and down to 39, like the spread of speed tiers is good. I have a lot of clump, like a big clump of like 5 or 6 mons that are between like 60 and 71, um, between like Magnezone and Sandaconda. I think like Hypno, Stonejourner, Sableye, Sandaconda, Magnezone, and Seviper, which like a lot of those are my low tiers, so they're not going to come every week. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal, but I think on paper it is not ideal. Um, but yeah, like I'm really excited to use this team. Like it says here, like Charizard's been one I've been looking for an opportunity to draft for a while, and I finally found it. Persian's a good comfort pick for me, but other than that, I haven't drafted. I've never drafted anything here. So well, I have Stonejourner in a multi-battle league, but and I had I lied. I did have Sandaconda in a Gen 8 league. That was this league actually, season 1. I had that. Um, but yeah, super excited to find out who I'm gonna play. And that being said, thank you for watching, everybody. Apologize for the yawning in the first half. But yeah, super excited to play everyone. And with that being said, I will see you guys next time.